Welcome to Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal, a doctor of East Asian medicine and a holistic transformational coach. Here we will shine light on wisdom keepers, paradigm shifters who inspire us to live thriving, joyful lives. Let's be inspired. Although I am a doctor of East Asian medicine, this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It does not replace professional medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider for guidance on your personal health needs. Hello, welcome to Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. I am your host, Dr. Krystal, and I am delighted to have our special guest, Carenna Willmont, is the founder of an accounting and CFO firm that focuses on empowering women and female business owners with their finances and a strong focus on saving and building a business that is financially sustainable and offers joy in work and how we all relate to money. I love that. Yes, more of that, please. Thank you for being here, Carenna.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I'm so curious, what does sacred mean to you?
I think the word just means that you treat it with care, you know? So I have that relationship with feelings and with money and with my body and with food. So I think it's a lot about so what fuels my work, actually, if you kind of go back in college, I was studying a lot of history. In every single war, every single any kind of big issue from different countries, it was always about resources. It was never about religion, which they, sort of talked about on the surface. But if you look deeper, it was always about whether it's, capital or iron or copper or whatever the resource is, oil. So that's when I started really wanting to help shape people and how they relate to money in a more sacred way, meaning so the win-win relationship versus a win-lose, right? War is usually a win-lose dynamic. And so I've just really been committed to this mission of so when I studied free market economics, you learn whoever has the best tomato in a free market when there's no government intervention, or very little, I should say, then the best tomato wins, right? Like if you go to the farmer's market and you have, or maybe your favorite is, farmer A, but my favorite's farmer C. So it's a free market. Everybody gets to choose and we vote with our dollars. So there's no government intervention. It's just pure, they call it free market. And so when you build something of quality, it attracts the right person, the right match for you. And that's what I really believe in when it comes to business and creating societies that are just and fair and a win-win. So really, I'm trying to shift everyone's relationship to money in a win-win, from a win-lose to a win-win. And that's been fueled by my studies of history.
Oh, I love that. I'd like to circle back around to that about resources, because I recently watched this documentary about water. Land grab was what it was called, and how these other countries are coming over, grabbing land so that they can get the aquifers for their resources, and that water is going to be the next gold. So it'd be an interesting thing to circle back around to. But as you know, this is about sacred stories, so I would love to hear what sacred story is in your heart today.
Well, I think the biggest thing that really makes me feel like it's that shift, similar to money, is women, specifically women and our value. I think that, especially in America, I don't see this as much in other countries, but I know it's there just to a lesser degree. But I've talked to a lot of women from the US, from other countries, and especially in the US, there's this sort of, and I even looked at the history of that. I was like, why do women sort of value themselves based on their beauty and their body? Like, why is that so prevalent in the United States versus women from Africa? They are educated well, and maybe they just happen to be beautiful or whatever, but it's not their currency. And I just feel in the US, a big part of the currency that women, and that really diminishes their investment in themselves from like an intellectual perspective. And then it reduces their earning capability in the United States. So that's like what I've seen with a lot of American women. And so my goal is I've been doing this 21 years. So it's really been about teaching women to value themselves ultimately is what it boils down to. Because when you value yourself, then whatever you're giving is usually of quality as well. And then the person who's buying it is getting the best of that. So again, that's that win-win dynamic. And it's just so important to me that women learn how to not only take care of themselves and love themselves, but also like when they're doing something in the marketplace and getting paid for it, that they do it with a win-win dynamic of really helping women. So, or helping the customer. It happens to be a woman maybe, but that's really my biggest mission, I would say. Is and so that the sacredness comes from really the honoring, right? The honoring of ourselves, the honoring of the customer, and not just the customer, not just in business, in friendship. Like I really highly value my friendships. And I noticed like my birthday's coming up and yesterday my girlfriend said, I'm gonna take you to the spa. I'm like, you don't have to pay for the whole thing. And she's like, I know, it's fine. Like that shows me that I am giving a lot because people really see that and want to, reciprocate. So I just made it my mission in all areas of my life. I just think women have been undervalued in general, whether it's business, whether it's friendship. Our currency is not our body and not our beauty, and not our stuff, not how beautiful our home is. It's just like our loving presence to me is really what matters. So I think like for me, the sacred
Mm-hmm.
journey, like personally, was going from being told my values external, right? My beauty, my body, whatever, my money, to no, what my real value is just like being a loving presence and making people in my life, whether it's clients, all my clients right now are women, so that's generally the case, but a lot of my girlfriends, like just making them feel heard and seen. I think that like all the books I've read about psychology and what is the human need, it's being heard and seen. It's so basic and so simple. But again, back to like when I studied all these histories of wars, it's like nobody's listening. And unfortunately, those are mostly men, and I know there's great men out there, but women seem to be the women, at least in my case, like they seem to be the people that are really moving this win-win dynamic forward. And I know I'm sure there's tons of men who do that too, but I just think historically the win-lose dynamic has been very much pushed by men, and it's not healthy for them, for us, for anyone, so for society. That's why I think it's sacred.
Right. So, yeah, like the win-lose, it's like like capitalism, there's a lot I love about capitalism, but there's another model that's in between, right? That's like just not just the top win, but that there's this leveling out where there's a win-win for everybody so that there doesn't have to be a top dog and an underdog and um yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying. That's part of what you're saying. And then also not women not putting so much value on their beauty, like there's just like where I live, there's, a lot of Botox and,
Mm,
fillers and stuff because of our society puts all this pressure, not that those things are wrong. I don't wanna make them
yeah.
wrong or bad, but there is this, like, pressure that we have to look a certain way, and then as we get into middle age, there's this wanting to hold on to the maiden and the fertile woman,
Mm,
um, has so much emphasis in our society, and, I do feel like there's this shift happening where middle-aged women in perimenopause are claiming their power back. They're like, "No," there's all this support that my grandmother didn't have or my mother didn't have, and that this is this rite of passage to reclaim being a queen and being sovereign and being in your power
mhm.
um and to age gracefully and to not be afraid to change and the hormones are changing so that we're not just people pleasing but that we speak our truth.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I was just gonna say that the other thing that I've looked at is so many of the musicians and artists that we listen to on at least the pop radio are like 20-year-olds, and they don't have the wisdom yet that the women in their 40s and 50s have. And so I love what you're saying. Like, I really hope that more women in their 40s and 50s do share their wisdom, because then the 20-year-olds aren't going to be so lost and doing fillers and doing stuff that really doesn't matter, but they think it does because that's what's being sold to them. So, I love that.
Yeah, and social media, like, I have a 20-year-old and, I can the anxiety that some of our young women are experiencing, um, I don't know if that's the root of all of their anxiety, but I was shocked to learn that really young girls are doing fillers and Botox. I was like, "Oh, I
What?
did." like,
Wow.
"Oh, okay."
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, because there's this fear of getting wrinkles, this fear of changing, and, like, they wanna prevent it, and,
Right.
um, I don't know. I don't wanna judge it, I just wanna bring awareness to it, and
Yeah.
um, that all this social media and this quick
Mhm.
scene of these quick reels of like flashes of what we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to look like is overstimulating the brain and is confusing to our young people and to us. Like I hardly ever go on anymore.
Mhm.
I'll go on to find things to make me laugh. I mean, not to get off topic, but it's just like coming back to that, like our value. What is our true worth and value? Is that what you said, that kindness and
Mhm.
to have that presence of being seen and being heard and
Yeah.
and I'm so curious when did this spark start inside of you to have it be with supporting women in money? Because I love that. I love, 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 love that because no one taught me how to manage money. I'm reteaching myself. And so I anytime I meet a woman who's like managing money and wanting to help other women, I think it's like badass.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I was lucky enough that my mother, when I was like 6 or 5, she put me into a savings account, and my grandmother would visit once a year. She'd give us $5. I'd put it in the savings account. And then I started babysitting when I was like 11, around 11. And I love babies. So I just babysat. And then the money in the bank account, the savings account, it was a savings account, not a checking. And it kept growing into the hundreds. And so my mom was like, maybe go ask the banker what compound interest is. And I loved math. So math was my favorite subject. So I remember going to the teller and I was like, can you explain compound interest? And she told me, and my mouth was like open. I was like, holy cow, it's free money. It's amazing. So then I started putting the money into CDs, so higher interest. Graduating high school with $12,000 just from, babysitting and compound interest. And then I went to college and I was a dancer. I was a ballet dancer. And I went to a small, art school in Vermont, Bennington, and, majored in dance. And, then in my college, we go to New York City, or we go to a place to do an internship between the 2 semesters. So it's a little bit interesting or different than most colleges. And so I went to New York City and I was training at one of the top modern dance companies. And I just was like, how do people make money? So I grew up really being great with money, right? Loving it, being clear, being really good with it. But then when I became in my 20s, so I decided to leave dance. I was like, I don't see any financial future in this profession. I was like, this isn't gonna work. So I found accounting and I found love because I always loved math. And and I think that one of the bigger wake up calls, even before I found accounting, was, when I was growing up, I did ballet, modern jazz. I was in a company in high school, so we traveled. It's a pretty big part of my life. I trained, I think it was like 6 days a week in high school. And so when I got to New York City in college, I was like shocked that literally 99% of choreographers are men, but 99% of dancers are women. Like, this is a little bit shocking. It's so few men in the dance world, but almost all of them, they're all the leaders of us, women. And that was a real wake up call. I was like, wow, this society in America is so geared towards like women being sort of second class and men being the leaders. And having all the money, having all the power. And I was like, this is not healthy. Like, this is not good for women. Even growing up, like I was best friends with this girl named Madeline, what we call her Mady, and her brother, they were twins, and he went to Harvard, and his best friend went to Harvard, and then she went to just like a regular old school. And it's like, this is so not how it should be. Women should be, pushed to be just as smart and just as educated as men. So I think that's what fueled my fire is just seeing the
Mm.
inequities of how women just like they're just accepting what is. And I'm like, this is not healthy. So that's really what motivated me. And then of course like studying war and then in college and then I switched my major, of course, to economics. Um, and then I was like, oh, this is, and then I went to top-notch school. I finished at Berkeley because I grew up in that environment. Like all the men went to Harvard and MIT, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to a good school. And, so I switched my whole life really into a more intellectual type major and then studied all the history and really saw it underneath all these wars in Europe and everywhere. It's always about economics. So just really getting to the core issue and then rectifying it, like creating a win-win, teaching my business owner clients, you do not want to create a win-lose. It's just short term, just like any kingdom, right? Any, monarch, it's gonna, if you have a win-lose, it's gonna have a high and then it's gonna have a drop. So if you create a win-win, it's sustainable. Right? Like my clients stay with me for years and years and years, because they don't need a full-time CFO. They just need a fractional CFO and an account. My team of accountants also do the bookkeeping and all that. So we grow with them basically, and that's sustainable. That's win-win. Like I get to know them. I get to help them not just with their business money, but I get to help them with their retirement money, their vacation planning, all of it. Like it's so much fun. So that's kind of how it all grew and where it came from.
Sign me up. I
It's
love
so good.
it. And I was so touched that you, at a young age, became aware of these dynamics and your mom guided you to go ask what is compound interest because I didn't know that. And I didn't know when I took out a student loan that it was going to compound, meaning it was going to increase.
Yeah.
I was so naive, like completely been blindsided and waking up later in life. So, gosh,
Yeah.
that's such a what a legacy that your mom is leaving you and your children, and now your piece of making the world better is understanding that wars are caused by resources and finances, and that there's a better way, and that you saw at a younger age that you wanted to empower women. And I
Yeah.
just, yeah, thank you. Thank you for your mission and thank you for what you're doing in the world.
Thank
Before
you.
we close up, is there a sacred practice that you would want to share with people? I mean, maybe it's around money that, or, what, anything that you want to share that's a practice that maybe can be a takeaway for somebody.
Before we go there, I want to bring up something that is so important and part of how I got to the win-win from an intellectual perspective. I was taking a class at the business school at Berkeley, and the professor, it was basically a negotiation type class, but it was also like emotional intelligence as well. And one of the things that I learned from there is like if you and I have a lemon and we don't communicate, and women are really good at communicating. Now that I'm married, I realize like, wow, men don't really communicate that much. They just sort of like assume a lot. And it's like so great that women. So anyway, in a class, we learned about like, let's say I had a lemon. And if we were both 50-50 partners in a business, we might just cut the lemon in half. But if we actually care about each other, I think this is the real differentiator in business in general. The word care, which is funny because it's in my name. People pointed that out to me years later because I was like, what if people talked about you? And I was like, oh wow.
Hmm.
And now that I care so many people, it's the same thing. I'm looking for people who actually care. And it's like so sadly, it's a little bit rare, which is it's very wonderful, easier to find them. So but anyway, so if you and I speak about what you're looking for, if you're looking for lemon juice and I really just want the rind, like that's a huge, I would get 100, like, I get double what I wanted and you would get double what you wanted. But if we don't communicate, we just cut it in half and we both walk away with half of what we want. So the idea is expanding the pie, right? Because again, if I cut it in half, it's just half. But if I know that you want the juice and I want the rind, like wow, we're doubling our, revenue, if you will. So those kind of ways of reshaping how we think is so powerful. And that's a huge part of now that I'm the owner and I have a team, the team that still does the accounting and even like some of the stuff that I used to do as a CFO, but I really, well, nobody can teach the psychology part because that's sort of my specialty. So that's the stuff I really enjoy. But anyway, in terms of practices, uh, I over the years, okay, so practice number one, you've got to know your numbers. I mean, that's like Shark Tank 101, right? Like, so you have to have clean accounting. Okay, so if you're a business owner and you have family and kids, you need a set of books for your personal life and you need a set of books for your business life. So my business life and most business owners use QuickBooks if they're small business owners or Zero. They're all software, they're all accounting softwares, and they all do the same thing. You get a good, clean P&L and balance sheet. That's so important. On a personal level, you can use Quicken, which is what I use. So I use QuickBooks for my business, Quicken for my personal, because anytime, like now I own two homes, I have two kids, I have a husband, like, you know what I mean? Like there's more to budget. When I was single, I still had a set of books that were personal, but I was mostly looking out for like how much did I spend on groceries? How much did I spend on restaurants? Those are in my vacations. So, but now it's like kids' activities, whatever. There's just more to track. And so clarity with numbers is like step one. You've got to have good accounting. You cannot build something it's like building a house out of sand. You just can't do it. So step one, know your numbers, do accounting, have somebody do it for you if you don't know how to do it, but make sure you understand your income, your revenue, your expenses, your income, your net income. So, so important. And so many people, even clients that hire me, they're making millions of dollars. Sometimes they will not know how much they make. It's pretty amazing. So one of my rules as an accountant is we have to send the P&L and the balance sheet every month to our client, and we meet with them if they want to, and like we review it, and you say, okay, is everything, make sure it's accurate. So just really having fun with your numbers. That's what I get feedback from clients is that they love me working with me because I make it fun. And before the pandemic, I used to all my clients are San Francisco based. So I would go take them to fancy hotels, buy them food, buy them drinks, not usually alcohol because we're focused on the accounting, but we would make their budget. I would teach them how to like do cash flow. I would teach them everything, but in an environment that takes the brain into a more fun, joyful state. Because I've studied neuroscience and that really helped me to understand why people do the same negative patterns with money over and over and over. I am here to break that. I mean, what inspired me to study neuroscience was various things, but one client, he was making millions and he had no cash to show for it. So that was like a wake up call. Like, why do people not take care of their money? Because I've been more of a saver. And so teaching people how to like have fun with saving, because I've been told like
Mm.
people don't get excited about saving like I do. So I had to like find a way to get them excited in a way that speaks to them. So hotels, restaurants, good food, like I do it like that. That's what I did before the pandemic. Now it's more just about the relationship and really teaching them to go inside and find joy with whatever excites them, right? Like one client, she loves travel. So we put a lot of money in her travel. Another client really wants to buy a home. So we're saving for the home. So everyone's goals are different, but just creating that like lightness and fun with money, I think is so rare. Like so many people tell me that. And I've met many accountants, believe me. Yeah, this is a very unique approach to accounting. And that's why I have so much fun with it. So I think just having fun with it, true, after accounting, number one, having fun with it. Like I had like 8 savings accounts at those like high yield interest savings account, and they let you do a nickname. So for me, I was like Sacred Home. Talk about sacred. I wrote when I was saving for the house I live in now. It was like my dream home. I waited many years to save and save and save, and you can put the number. You can put like Sacred Home 300K. And I kept just putting that money. And then when I hit the number, it's like such a good feeling, right? Like that amazing feeling when you get to check off the box. So, and I had that, like, I mean, it's changed now because I'm married but I still do the same thing and I still do all the systems. It's slightly different now, but, and I had my vacation one. And so every account was separate and it was like more, very intentional, very clear. Every time I plan a new trip, I'd say, okay, I need 10,000. Oh, I need 15,000. And then I put that in the nickname. So I remember it because, a lot of numbers in my life, right? So to be like, wait, how much am I saving? Or if it's for the business, I would do taxes. I always did 15%. So I would just have that as a nickname. So every time I get paid, I take a percentage, put it into this high yield savings. So not only am I saving for taxes, but the money that I'm saving for taxes is making me more money, right? Because of the interest. I mean, the last 3 years it's been 4%, so even more, 4.3%. So just making it all logical and planned and intentional and fun, I think is so, so important. And so, and then the last thing in terms of like a practice, I always think when I hear the word practice, I think of like meditation and that kind of thing. And I really do believe in that. I meditate twice a day, morning and night. And like I put myself in a state of like peace and calm. It's like that win-win dynamic that I was talking about earlier. I have this beautiful backyard with a pool and everything, and I keep imagining like all these women in my backyard, like just, swimming, having cocktail parties. Like it's just, um, yeah, peace is just so important because when we're peaceful, and that's why I like saving so much because when you save and you have reserves, again, back to that war thing. If you're like so stressed about money, you're not going to make the best decisions, right? But I teach my clients to have a 6 or 12 or even 24-month cushion. So that way, if you have a slow month, it's not like the end of the world. It's not a big deal. You've got all this cash to support you if you need to take some out. So then you're coming from this win-win always. Like always think about the client first. That is so important as a business owner. Um, and I'll tell you, I started this 21 years ago, almost 22 years really, now that we're in 26. And I went to a cafe. I like literally have this visceral memory. I went to this cafe and I was like, okay. And I had very little money at the time. I had just switched from dance, to accounting. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, I had like, a little bit of money, and I was like, okay, just pretend I had endless amounts of money. Like, and that's like a spiritual practice, right? Abundance, God, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's just I have more than I need, way more than I need. What would I do with my time and my skills? And the answer was teach women about how to be financially empowered. That was literally it. So it was like, oh, well, then that's what I'm supposed to do. But because I don't have a ton of money, I'll just charge for it. And that's how it grew. And it's been going that way ever since. So yeah, I just think like if more people built a business from that, like a true, like I love math, I'm really good at it. I'm good at saving, I'm good at this stuff naturally. Like it's not like a lot of effort for me. Then I go to share it with people who do struggle with it. That's it. It's like that's the win-win, right? It's I get to win, they get to win, everybody wins. So that's what I would love to see more of in business. So I hope that helps.
Oh, I love that. That's so inspiring. Thank you so much. So,
Oh, thank you.
how can people find you?
They could book, complimentary sessions, like per session on my website, Willmont, WILLMONT, financial.com. And then they can book a session. It's 30 minutes and you just get to I get to learn about you really and what you're struggling with and how I can help. And then if they feel like it's a good fit, my company does bookkeeping and then the CFO work. And there's controller work in between, but it's basically bookkeeping and bill pay and accounts receivable. And then the CFO work is more like taking that data from the bookkeeper, so that's more the past, and helping the business owner to plan for the future, whether it's revenue. Revenue is a big one, like figuring out what to charge your clients, how to get to your goals. So I always start with the client's end goal, and then we build a plan and a whole structure and a whole revenue plan based on how much money they want to make, basically. And then the lifestyle. I have a whole formula I came up with years ago based on all these books I read about human performance. And it was like passion plus time plus money equals happiness. And I don't like telling too many people this because it's a little bit like they're like, what? But I won't give you a number, but I don't work a whole lot of hours, but I get to really help people. And I think and that gives me time to really do my own work and my own, all these other areas, exercise, all the things. So, healthy eating and all that. So I think our society in general, like working 40 hours a week to me is not sustainable also. Like every day, even my next door neighbor is a PhD. He's a biotech and neuroscientist. And like he just got his company is VC funded, so it's not funded right now. And he's like, I'm taking care of cars and like, no, we shouldn't be like neglecting our cars so we can go to a job. Like to me that so the whole like 40-hour structure is by men for men again. It's not by men and by women and for women. So, my little secret, I don't really I don't tell my clients, but I teach them to really be powerful in less time, and so then they don't have to put in a million hours. That's why I don't bill hourly. So there's a lot of other stuff that I bring to the table besides my accounting skills. I do have a master's in accountancy and a bachelor's in economics from Berkeley, and so yeah, I've done the more manly approach to education, just to sort of be whatever in the marketplace, but really what works in my experience is like more of a mixture, a win-win-win dynamic. But obviously I've read a million books on human performance, history, economics, all these things. So I've been an avid reader, and that definitely is maybe more education based. But yeah, so I think it's so important to blend sort of the East and the West, if you will.
Well, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you to all our listeners. We are all family here, and just remember that your story and your healing is sacred and you are not alone.
That's right.
Thank you for joining me on Dr. Krystal's podcast, Inspiring Sacred Stories. If today's episode lifted you up, I'd love if you shared it with a friend, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps more people discover these stories of light and transformation. And if you'd like to work with me more closely, head over to www.drkrystalkinnunen.com. And as a thank you for listening to the show, you'll receive $20 off your first session. Details are also in the show notes. Remember, in this time of rapid change and transformation, you are not alone. You are part of a greater shift, and your inspired life matters. Until next time, let's be inspired.